I should have known better. That was the only thought running through my head when I saw the will. It wasn't some grand family meeting or emotional moment of disclosure. No, I stumbled across it purely by accident. I was at my parents' house, the same house I had been helping them maintain for the last 5 years. Bills? Handled. Repairs? Done. Groceries? Stocked. I had been their safety net for so long that it felt like second nature. That day, I was helping my mom, Margaret, sort through some paperwork. She wasn't exactly tech-savvy, so scanning documents was one of the small favors I did regularly. But when I stumbled upon a folder labeled Estate Plan and Last Will, curiosity got the best of me. I told myself I wasn't snooping, I was just checking. But as soon as I opened it, my stomach dropped. Everything. Literally everything was going to Chloe. Chloe, the same sister who had never lifted a finger to help. The same Chloe who spent her days hopping from one hobby to another without any real direction, while I was busting my ass, making sure our parents had a roof over their heads. And me? Not even a mention. Well, unless you count the vague "we love both of our daughters equally" line. Yeah, sure. Nothing says equality like handing over the entire family estate to one child and leaving the other with, what? Good memories? I sat there, gripping the paper so tightly my knuckles turned white. Was this always the plan? Had they always intended to use me as their financial crutch while Chloe got rewarded for doing absolutely nothing? I couldn't believe it. Emma, what's taking so long? My mom's voice jolted me out of my thoughts. I didn't even bother to hide the will. I stood up, document in hand, and walked straight into the living room where Margaret and my dad, Henry, were casually sipping their tea like nothing had happened. Is this how it is? I asked, my voice unnervingly calm. Margaret's eyes widened when she saw what I was holding. Henry set his cup down with a sigh, like he was preparing for some minor inconvenience. Emma, honey, it's not what you think. Not what I think? My jaw clenched. It looks pretty clear to me, I said, my voice sharper now. After everything I've done for you, after all these years, and Chloe gets everything? My dad's face was unreadable, but my mom tried her best to soften the blow. Emma, sweetheart, you don't need it. You're independent. Chloe, well, she struggles. We just wanted to make sure she's taken care of. I felt a sharp sting in my chest. Taken care of? She wasn't some helpless child. She was 28, fully capable, just unwilling. That's your excuse? My voice was barely above a whisper, but the weight behind it was crushing. Margaret opened her mouth to respond, but I was done. Got it, I said, placing the will back on the table. Glad to know where we stand. I turned and walked out, ignoring their calls behind me. They'll come around. That's what I told myself for the first week. Maybe they'd realize how unfair they'd been. Maybe they'd call, apologize, and we'd have a real conversation about what had happened. But as the days passed and the silence grew louder, I realized something. They weren't going to apologize. In fact, they weren't even going to acknowledge it. I didn't go back to their house after that day. No texts, no calls. I went completely radio silent. And you know what? They didn't notice. Not for 2 whole weeks. I figured maybe, just maybe, they'd be worried. But when I finally heard from them, it wasn't a concerned, "How are you, Emma?" or even a half-hearted, "Let's talk." No, what I got was a cold, impersonal text from my dad. "The mortgage payment is due. Can you send the money by Friday?" I almost laughed when I read it. Almost. Seriously? After everything, they still thought I was just going to keep footing the bill like nothing had happened? Like I was their personal ATM that they could just tap into whenever they needed? I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "I'm sure Chloe can handle it, since the house is hers and all." I hit send and tossed my phone onto the couch. I was done. Cutting off the lifeline. The silence after that was deafening. A few hours later, my mom texted me, "Emma, don't be like this. We need to talk." Oh, now they wanted to talk? I ignored it. Another day passed, then another. Then came Chloe. Her text came in late at night, and just seeing her name pop up on my screen made my blood boil. "Emma, you're being ridiculous. It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do. Not a big deal." She was really acting like I had no right to be upset about being completely erased from the will. I typed back, "No, I think you've got it covered, since you're the one they trust so much." Silence. A few minutes later, another message popped up. "OMG, you're really mad about that? It's just money, Emma. Grow up. Just money? Funny how it was just money now that it was hers to inherit. Then you won't mind using some of that money to cover their bills, right?" No response. Of course. Ice cold distance. The days dragged on, and the silence stretched longer. I should have felt guilty, but I didn't. For the first time in years, I wasn't bending over backward to keep everyone afloat. I had sacrificed so much my time, my energy, my finances, while Chloe sat back and reaped the benefits. And now, they expected me to just keep doing it? No. I had spent years putting their needs before mine. It was time to put myself first. Desperate attempts. A week later, my mom tried again. This time she called. I let it go to voicemail. The message was predictable soft, pleading, and laced with guilt. "Emma, honey, please. We're family. We don't turn our backs on each other. Family?" Funny how they only remembered that word when they needed something. Then came the guilt trip. "We did so much for you growing up. We just need a little help while things get sorted out." I rolled my eyes. Sorted out? They had plenty of time to sort things out before they decided to screw me over. I deleted the message without responding. Enter Chloe, Queen of Entitlement. The next night, I got another message. From Chloe. Again, "Just talk to them. You're being so dramatic." Dramatic? That was rich coming from someone who had done absolutely nothing while I carried the weight of our family. "You mean like how you talked to me about taking everything from me without a second thought?" I typed back. Her response was as predictable as ever. "You're seriously going to let them lose the house over this? You're unbelievable." "Not my problem," I replied. "It's yours now." I didn't feel a shred of guilt. Final straw. The silence stretched on after that, until one morning, I woke up to a notification that made my jaw drop. A bank transfer request, $3,500. From my mom. No message, no explanation. Just a cold, shameless request for the exact amount they needed to cover the mortgage. They weren't even asking anymore. They were demanding. I declined it without hesitation. Less than 5 minutes later, my phone rang. "Mom." I let it go to voicemail. Then another text, "Emma, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed, "Because it's not my responsibility anymore. Try Chloe." I hit send and didn't look back. They had made their choice. Now, they could live with it. Silence can be louder than words. After I sent that last text, everything went quiet. Days passed. No calls, no messages, nothing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. No more texts asking for money. No more guilt trips. No more late-night calls about emergencies that magically disappeared once the bills were paid. I could finally breathe, but deep down I knew it wouldn't last. They needed me. My parents, Margaret and Henry, had relied on me for so long that they didn't know how to function without me. And Chloe? She was used to getting everything handed to her. She didn't know the first thing about handling responsibility. So, I waited. And sure enough, the cracks started to show. 2 weeks later. It started with little things. Margaret called one of my friends, Lucas, asking if he had heard from me. He told me about it the next day, sounding a little too amused. "She's acting like you disappeared off the face of the earth." "I might as well have," I muttered, rolling my eyes. Then Henry started calling my work, just checking in. Yeah, right. The receptionist, Olivia, had to come to my desk twice that week, with that awkward "your dad called again" expression. I finally told her to screen my calls. But what really made me laugh? Chloe? "Hey, Emma." Her text popped up one afternoon like nothing had happened. "Can you help me with the utilities? I'm not sure how to set up the online payments." Was she serious? This was the same girl who had inherited an entire estate and couldn't figure out how to pay a bill? "Figure it out, Chloe," I replied. No response. Reality hits hard. By the end of the month, things had spiraled. I heard from Ben, one of the neighbors, that the mortgage hadn't been paid. Apparently, foreclosure notices had started piling up. "They're freaking out," Ben said when we bumped into each other at the local market. "Your mom asked me if I knew any good real estate agents." Real estate agents? They were already thinking about selling the house? Good. They had made their choice. They could deal with the consequences. Chloe's meltdown, it took another week before Chloe cracked. I was at home, enjoying a quiet Saturday morning with a cup of coffee and a good book when my phone buzzed. Chloe. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Emma, WTF is going on?" I smirked, sipping my coffee. "What do you mean? Mom and Dad are losing the house." "Ah, there it was. Maybe you should use that inheritance money to fix it," I typed back, keeping my tone cool and detached. "You know I can't do that," she replied almost instantly. "That money is tied up in investments. I can't touch it without penalties." "Not my problem," I said, adding a little shrug emoji for effect. Margaret and Henry hit rock bottom. A few days after Chloe's meltdown, I got another text. This time from Margaret. "Emma, we need to talk." I ignored it. Then another. "Please. It's urgent." Still ignored. But when the messages started piling up, "We're going to lose the house. We don't know what to do. Please, Emma. We need you." I finally gave in. I wasn't heartless. I just wanted them to feel the weight of their choices. So I called. Margaret answered on the first ring. "Emma!" "Oh, thank God. What's going on?" I asked, even though I already knew. We're in trouble," she said, her voice shaky. "The mortgage is past due, and we don't have the money to cover it. We didn't expect things to get this bad so quickly." "What happened to Chloe?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. She can't help," Margaret mumbled, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course she couldn't. So now you're calling me," I said, my tone calm but firm. "After everything, we didn't mean for it to go this way, Emma," she whispered. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "I told you this would happen," I said softly, "but you didn't listen." The cold, hard truth. For a moment, there was silence on the other end. Then Henry's voice came through. "Emma, we just need a little help. Just enough to get us through this." "A little help?" I repeated, feeling a bitter laugh rise in my throat. "I've been giving you a little help for years." "And where did that get me?" "We didn't know. You knew." I cut him off, my voice ice cold now. "You just didn't care. Not when it was convenient for you." Silence. "You chose Chloe," I continued, my words slicing through the quiet. "Now she can deal with the mess you created. She's not ready for this kind of responsibility," Margaret said softly. "And I was?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "When I was paying your bills and keeping the roof over your head?" "Emma." I shook my head, even though they couldn't see me. "I'm done," I said, my voice firm. "You made your choice. Now live with it." Chloe's final plea. The next day, Chloe showed up at my apartment. I had just gotten home from work when I saw her standing outside my door, looking like a mess. "Emma," she said, her voice trembling. "What are you doing here, Chloe?" I asked, crossing my arms. "Please," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "I don't know what to do. They're going to lose everything." I stared at her for a long moment, feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. "That's not my problem," I said quietly. Her face crumbled. "Emma, please, I can't fix this," she whispered. "Then maybe you should have thought about that before taking everything," I said softly, my voice filled with quiet finality. I stepped back, closing the door in her face. The power shift when I walked back into my apartment, I felt lighter. For years, I had carried the weight of my family's problems on my shoulders. But not anymore. They had made their choice. And now, they were the ones left holding the pieces. I knew they wouldn't stop, ignoring the calls, blocking their numbers, even refusing to answer the door when Chloe showed up. It didn't matter. They weren't giving up that easily. Part of me had hoped they'd take the hint, that after weeks of silence and being left to fend for themselves, they'd finally get it. But no. Desperation does strange things to people. And my family? They were drowning. The unexpected showdown. It was a Wednesday afternoon when it happened. I had just wrapped up a long day at the school where I taught, and all I wanted was to go home, kick off my shoes, and curl up with a glass of wine and some trashy reality TV. But as I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment complex, I saw them. Margaret, Henry, Chloe, all three of them, standing outside my building like some twisted family intervention. Except the only thing missing was a camera crew. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered under my breath, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. For a moment, I considered driving away, but I was tired of running. No, if they wanted a showdown, they were going to get one. Face to face, I parked, got out of the car, and walked toward them with purpose. My heels clicked against the pavement, and the closer I got, the more I could see the panic in their eyes. "Good. Let them feel it." "Emma," Margaret started, her voice too soft, too sweet, like she hadn't just spent the last few weeks ignoring my existence. "Mom," I said flatly, stopping a few feet away from them. Chloe stood off to the side, arms crossed, her eyes darting between me and our parents. She looked bored, but I knew her well enough to see the panic underneath. Henry was the first to speak. "Emma, we need to talk," he said, his tone laced with forced calmness. "About what?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "The will? The fact that you left me out completely after I kept this family afloat for years? Or maybe about how you only seem to remember I exist when the mortgage is due?" Margaret's face flushed. "Sweetheart, it's not like that." "Oh, really?" I let out a bitter laugh, because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like that. "The plea begins, Emma. Please," Henry said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "We're about to lose the house. We just need a little help, just enough to get through this rough patch." A rough patch. My jaw clenched as I stared at them. Did they really think I was that naive? "A little help?" I echoed, crossing my arms. "I gave you a little help for years. And how did you thank me?" Margaret looked down, avoiding my gaze. "We didn't mean to hurt you, Emma," she whispered. "But you did," I said, my voice steady, but the pain simmering just beneath the surface. "You didn't just hurt me, you erased me, we thought." Margaret's voice cracked. "We thought you'd understand." "Understand what?" I snapped, my patience wearing thin. "That I was good enough to pay your bills, but not good enough to be part of this family?" Chloe's entitled outburst. That's when Chloe finally decided to chime in. "Oh my God, Emma, can you just stop?" she huffed, rolling her eyes like this was just another inconvenience for her. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." I turned my gaze to her, my eyes narrowing. "Out of proportion?" "Yeah," she scoffed, crossing her arms tighter. "It's just money. Why are you acting like this is the end of the world? Just money." "Of course. That was always Chloe's mindset. If it's just money," I said, my tone ice cold, "then why don't you use some of it to fix this mess?" Her face went pale. I can't." "Why not?" I pressed. "Because it's tied up in investments," she mumbled, suddenly avoiding eye contact. "Investments," I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. How convenient. The moment everything changed, the first took a step closer, making sure they all heard me loud and clear. "You made your choice," I said, my voice unwavering. "You left me out. You gave everything to Chloe, and now that things are falling apart, you expect me to fix it?" Henry shifted uncomfortably. "Emma, please." "No," I cut him off, my tone firm. "I'm done. I spent years cleaning up your messes. I sacrificed my time, my money, and my energy to make sure you had a roof over your heads. And what did I get in return? Silence. Nothing," I continued, my voice softer now but no less deadly. "Not even a thank you." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't know how to fix it, Emma." "Then maybe," I said, taking a deep breath, "you should have thought about that before you chose Chloe over me." "The final blow, we're family," Margaret whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Family?" the first repeated, feeling the sting of that word. Funny how that word only comes up when you need something. I looked at Chloe, who was still standing there, arms crossed, her face flushed with frustration. "You wanted it all, Chloe?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp. "Well, now you've got it. Congratulations." Her eyes widened, her confidence finally cracking. "Emma," Henry tried again, but I held up a hand. No, I said softly. You made your choice. Now live with it. I turned to walk away, but Margaret's voice stopped me one last time. Emma, please. Goodbye, Mom. And with that, I walked away. Cutting the cord as I made my way back to my apartment, I felt lighter. Years of resentment, years of being taken for granted, years of sacrificing my own happiness for people who never appreciated it. Gone. I didn't owe them anything anymore. They had made their choice, and now they were going to have to live with it. Walking away was supposed to be the end. I thought once I shut that door both literally and figuratively, I'd be done. I had said my piece, made it clear that I was finished being their safety net, and left them to deal with the mess they had created. But I underestimated them. Margaret, Henry, and Chloe weren't just going to accept defeat. No, they had to take things to a whole new level of pathetic. The social media smear campaign. A week after the confrontation, I started noticing some interesting activity on Facebook. It started subtly posts about family values and how true family always sticks together. Classic guilt tripping. I ignored it at first, but then the posts started becoming specific. Margaret, it's heartbreaking when your own child turns their back on you after everything you've done for them. We never expected this kind of betrayal. Henry, we gave her everything, and now she's abandoned us in our time of need. And Chloe? Oh, she was the worst. Chloe, some people only care about money. They forget what family really means. Seriously? They were painting me as the villain, making it seem like I had just abandoned them for no reason. They wanted to play dirty? Fine. Setting the record straight, I wasn't about to let them control the narrative. So, I did what any rational person would do. I took to social media myself. I didn't write some vague, passive-aggressive post. No, I laid it all out. Since my family has decided to air our dirty laundry online, I guess it's only fair that I set the record straight. For years, I was the one who kept things running, paying the mortgage, buying groceries, fixing the house, while Chloe did absolutely nothing. When I found out my parents left everything to her in their will, I walked away. Not because I'm selfish, but because I was tired of being used. And now, after all that, they have the nerve to paint me as the bad guy? I think not. I attached screenshots, text messages asking for money, receipts for the bills I had covered, and yes, even a photo of the will. Receipts. Let's see them spin that. The fallout. The reaction was immediate. The comments flooded in. Friends, neighbors, even some distant relatives chimed in. And guess what? They were on my side. Wow, Emma. I had no idea you were going through all that. You've been so generous. Unbelievable. They took advantage of you and then had the audacity to guilt trip you? Chloe gets everything and still expects you to clean up her mess? Nope. They can deal with it. Even people who had been close to my parents started questioning their actions. I always thought Chloe was spoiled, but this, wow. It was freeing. For the first time, people saw the truth. And then, silence. The posts stopped after that. Margaret and Henry went radio silent. No more Facebook guilt trips, no more passive-aggressive texts, nothing. And Chloe? Crickets. I could only imagine the chaos happening behind closed doors. Their perfect little facade had crumbled, and now they had to deal with the consequences. Reclaiming my life with the drama finally behind me, I did something I hadn't done in years. I focused on myself. I threw myself into my work, took on new projects, and even started taking evening classes. I'd always wanted to explore photography, and now I had the time and energy to do it. I reconnected with friends I had drifted away from: Lucas, Olivia, and even some old college buddies who had been asking me to hang out for ages. And for the first time in a long time, I felt happy. No more worrying about late-night calls asking for money. No more stressing over whether the mortgage had been paid. Just me, living my life. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I'd be lying if I said I didn't occasionally wonder how things were going for them. Ben, my neighbor and unofficial source of gossip, kept me updated. The house is on the market. He told me one afternoon when we ran into each other at the coffee shop. They're desperate to sell. Looks like they're trying to downsize. Downsize? Interesting. And Chloe? I asked, more out of curiosity than anything. Last I heard, she moved back in with them, Ben said, shaking his head. Guess those investments didn't pan out. Karma. It always finds a way. Chloe learns a hard lesson. I didn't hear from Chloe directly, but I wasn't surprised when I got a text from Lucas a few weeks later. Guess who just slid into my DMs? I didn't even have to ask. Chloe? Yup, he replied, followed by a laughing emoji. Apparently, she was looking for advice on how to get a better paying job. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Taking control. On my terms. I wasn't bitter. I didn't spend my days plotting their downfall or hoping they'd fail. But I wasn't going back. They had shown me who they were, and I had finally believed them. Family takes care of each other, Margaret had said during that final confrontation. And maybe that was true. But family also respects each other. They don't use, manipulate, and discard the people who care about them the most. I deserved better. A new chapter begins. A few months later, I stood on my balcony, watching the sunset with a glass of wine in hand. I was free. Free from the weight of their expectations. Free from the constant guilt and manipulation. For the first time in years, my life was mine. And I wasn't going to waste another second of it. They had made their choice, and I had made mine. Story 2. I never thought betrayal would come from the two people I trusted most. It's funny how life has a way of pulling the rug out from under you when you least expect it. For me, it all started when Lucas, my best friend since college, offered to handle the hotel bookings for my wedding weekend. You've got enough going on, bro. Let me take care of this, he said, flashing his usual easygoing grin. He showed me the confirmations on his phone. Everything seemed in order. I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? Lucas had always been my rock. Through breakups, career slumps, and family drama, he was there. Maybe. Too there. Now that I look back, I was too wrapped up in work and last-minute wedding prep to notice how much time Maddie, my fiancé, and Lucas had been spending together, planning details, checking out venues, tasting cake sample stuff I figured I had no patience for. Maddie said it was easier that way since Lucas had great taste. And I believed her. I trusted them both blindly. The night everything unraveled, the night before the wedding, things felt off. We were at the rehearsal dinner after party, and Maddie was nowhere to be found. I texted her. Maddie needed some air, just clearing my head. Pre-wedding jitters, I told myself, but something didn't sit right. I tried calling straight to voicemail. Then, I noticed Lucas was gone too. Probably ran to grab more drinks, someone said. But his car wasn't in the lot. A knot tightened in my stomach. I opened Instagram, figuring maybe Maddie had posted something to distract herself. That's when I saw it. A story. Up for less than a second before it was deleted. But not before I caught the hotel room number in the background. Room 1027. I knew that room because Lucas booked the block. And he made sure he was in the same building as us. The discovery, my heart pounded as I rode the elevator up. My brain was screaming at me, telling me not to go, to walk away and pretend I didn't see anything. But I couldn't. Lucas had given me a spare key card earlier, just in case. That card slid through the lock, and the door beeped green. What I saw burned into my brain. Maddie, Lucas. Sheets tangled, clothes discarded on the floor. They didn't even hear me come in. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, phone in hand, snapping pictures. Evidence. Lucas was the first to notice me. And you know what he did? He smirked. She was never really yours, Jake, he said, reaching for his phone. Want to see how long this has been going on? Maddie was crying. Clutching the sheets like that would somehow fix what was broken. Jake, please. I can explain. Save it. My voice was calm, unnervingly so. Keep the ring. It's fake anyway. It wasn't. But seeing her face crumble at that lie was worth it. Lucas laughed, always so damn cocky. This is why she needed more. Someone who could actually... You know what's funny, Lucas? I cut him off. My voice sharper than before. You just lost your job. And you don't even know it yet. The calm before the storm, his smirk faltered. We worked at the same company, different departments, but I had everything screenshots. of his inappropriate emails, proof of him taking credit for his team's work, and all the favors he cashed in. He thought he was untouchable. Bluffing, he muttered. But I saw the fear creeping into his eyes. I leaned in, smiling the kind of smile that promised nothing good. Remember that project you got a bonus for last quarter? Elsie, your direct report, kept receipts, all of them. His face went pale. Oh, and by the way, I pulled out my phone. Just sent some screenshots to Odette. You know, your fiancé, the one you're supposed to marry next month? The blood drained from his face. Maddie was looking at him now, eyes wide. You're engaged? I left them arguing, walked out calm and collected, and called my parents on the way down. The wedding's off. I'll explain later. Then I drove to the 24-hour diner, where Lucas and I used to study during college. I ordered a black coffee, pulled out my laptop, and started writing emails. HR was going to have a very interesting morning. Fallout begins. It's been 5 days since that night, and the fallout has been satisfying. The wedding? Canceled. Vendors were surprisingly sympathetic when they heard the bride had slept with the best man. Got 60% of my deposits back. For the ones who didn't, their Yelp pages will be getting a thorough update soon. Maddie's been blowing up my phone first with apologies, then with anger. You never had time for me, followed by, I made a mistake. I haven't blocked her. I'm just letting the messages pile up. Might be useful later. And Lucas? Well, he's been silent, because he knows what's coming. The setup Monday morning. I was at the office by 6 a.m. I had a meeting scheduled with HR at 7. I didn't just bring receipts. I brought a damn ledger. Every inappropriate email, every stolen idea, every time he threw a junior under the bus to cover for his mistakes. By 9 a.m., Lucas was called into an emergency meeting. By 11, he was escorted out with a cardboard box. But that's not even the best part, Odette. When I told her everything, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just smiled. I think it's time Lucas learns actions have consequences, she said. And oh, did she mean it? You know that feeling when you drop a row of dominoes? That quiet moment before everything collapses? Yeah, that's where I was. Monday morning was just the beginning. By the time Lucas realized what hit him, the damage was already done. The fallout at work, one showed up early to the office, grabbed a coffee, and settled into the conference room where I'd scheduled the meeting with HR. I wasn't nervous. I was focused. Every email, every message where Lucas took credit for someone else's work laid out in a neat folder on my laptop. Elsie, his former direct report, had been waiting for this moment. She had everything timestamps, forwarded emails, even Slack messages where he pressured junior team members to stay quiet about his screw-ups. This is a lot, the HR rep said, scrolling through the files. And there's more, I added, pulling out printed copies just to hammer it home. He's been manipulating the team for months. By 9 a.m., Lucas was called in. I wasn't there for that part, but I heard about it. Word spreads fast in tech. He walked into that meeting thinking it was a project review. Walked out 2 hours later with security escorting him and a box full of desk junk protein shaker, desk cactus, the works. Dude's done. One of my coworkers texted me. HR's talking lawsuits. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. Odette plays her part, and then there was Odette. When I met her for coffee after everything went down, I expected tears, anger, maybe even denial. But Odette? She was cool as ice. I had a feeling, she said, stirring her latte. Lucas always had excuses, always working late. But I didn't have proof. Well, now she did, and she wasn't about to let it slide. I want to help, she said, her eyes narrowing. He needs to feel this. Oh, and she meant it. Odette had connections. Turns out, she worked in marketing for one of our biggest client companies, and she had access to internal emails, including ones from Lucas, where he tried hitting on one of her coworkers 6 months ago, the same coworker who mysteriously got reassigned after rejecting him. I think it's time the execs see this, Odette said, her smile razor sharp. 2 days later, those emails landed in the inboxes of the company's top brass. And just like that, Lucas burned his last professional bridge. Jake, You didn't have to go nuclear. Maddie texted me after she found out. He's lost everything. You're right, I replied. He did that all by himself. Blocked. Maddie's downward spiral, Maddie. Oh, Maddie. She thought she'd land on her feet. Thought Lucas would be her safety net when I walked away. Except, Lucas didn't have a net anymore. When Odette dumped him, and boy did she make it public, Maddie found herself stranded. She called. She texted. We need to talk. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. Mistake? That's an understatement. I didn't respond. I just let her messages pile up. But here's the kicker, Maddie wasn't just losing me. She was losing everything. The HR bombshell. Maddie and I worked at the same company. Different departments, but the same monitored email system. And guess what she used to coordinate her meetups with Lucas? Yep, her work email. HR flagged it. Someone reported inappropriate use of company resources. By the time they traced everything back, Maddie was facing an administrative review. Jake, please, she texted after getting the notice. They're talking about suspension. Did I feel bad? No, you did this to yourself, I replied. I wasn't being petty. I was just done. Odette takes it up a notch, meanwhile. Odette was just getting started. She reached out to me again after her meeting with Lucas's former boss. They're pulling all his past projects for review, she said. Apparently, a lot of what he submitted looks familiar. Familiar was putting it lightly. Lucas had been padding his portfolio with work from other people, including code pulled straight from public GitHub repos. And now, that little discovery was making its way up the chain. He won't be working in tech anytime soon, Odette added. The group chat blows up as if things couldn't get worse for Lucas. Word had spread in our friend group. I wasn't the only one he'd stabbed in the back. Eli, dude, Lucas hit on my girlfriend last year. Mark, he borrowed $500 from me and never paid it back. Josh, remember when he sabotaged my project? I knew that was him. Turns out, Lucas had been screwing over everyone for years. I was just the last to find out. We're done with him, Josh said in the chat. He's out. Our friend group excommunicated him. Lucas was a ghost. The best part? Lucas didn't even know the full extent of his downfall yet. See, I hadn't told him that Odette wasn't just sending emails. She was talking to the company's legal team, and they were looking real closely at how many projects he'd led that were built on plagiarized code. Karma wasn't done yet, but here's where it gets even better. Lucas had just moved into a fancy high-rise apartment, all part of the successful tech guy image he loved to project. The problem? Odette co-signed the lease. When she broke off the engagement, she also pulled her name off that lease. Lucas had 30 days to vacate. Enjoy the basement, Lucas, I muttered under my breath when I heard. Maddie gets her own dose of karma. As for Maddie, her review didn't go well. Turns out, using company resources to coordinate secret hookups isn't something HR takes lightly. She was placed on administrative leave unpaid. And her lease? She couldn't afford the apartment on her own. Jake, I need to talk to you, please. Nope. Jake, I'm scared. I messed up. Not my problem. Jake, can we just meet? I blocked her. A taste of their own medicine by the end of the week. Maddie was back living with her sister. Lucas, crashing at his mom's. And me, I was thriving. I had dinner with my parents, who were beyond relieved the wedding was off. Got back to hitting the gym regularly. Even started talking to someone new, Rain. We'd met a while back, but I was too wrapped up in wedding chaos to pursue anything. Now, we'd been texting a lot. And Lucas and Maddie, well, they were discovering what it felt like to lose everything they'd taken for granted. But the best was yet to come. It's funny how life works sometimes. You think you've seen the end of a story, but then life throws in one last plot twist just to remind you who's really in control. For Lucas and Maddie, that twist came hard. Lucas hits rock bottom last time I saw Lucas. He was still trying to convince himself that he could bounce back. I ran into him at this new burger place downtown. I was grabbing dinner with Rain. Yeah, that Rain. We'd been seeing each other for a couple of months by then, and things were going really well. She's got this laid-back energy, but she's sharp. Single mom, 2 kids, loves hiking, and can destroy me at Mario Kart. Basically everything Maddie wasn't. Anyway, Rain wanted to modify her order extra pickles or something, so I stepped up to the counter. That's when I saw him. Lucas, grease-stained uniform, paper hat, bagging fries like his life depended on it. I swear, I almost didn't recognize him, but when our eyes met, oh, he knew exactly who I was. Can I speak to you? He mumbled, looking anywhere but at me. His voice was barely above a whisper. I glanced at Rain. She raised an eyebrow but gave me a nod. 5 minutes. We stepped outside, around the corner where he lit up a cigarette with shaking hands. He took a long drag before finally speaking. "You ruined my life," he said, his voice laced with bitterness. I just stood there, arms crossed. Let him get it all out. I lost my job, my apartment, my friends. Odette won't even look at me. And Maddie, well, she's gone too. All because of you. I let that hang in the air for a moment before I spoke. "No, Lucas," I said, my tone calm but firm. "You did this to yourself." He opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. "You slept with my fiancé, lied to your own fiancé, took credit for other people's work. And you expect me to feel bad that your life fell apart? Jake, come on, man. I was drunk. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I scoffed. "Lucas, that wasn't a mistake. It was a decision, and you made it over and over again." His face paled. "Look," I said, my voice softer now. "I'm not here to kick you while you're down. But don't stand here and pretend like I'm the villain in this story." I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a screenshot. Recognize this? It was a screenshot of Maddie's Instagram. She was back in her hometown, working at her dad's hardware store. Caption, "Rebuilding and finding myself." "Your soulmate's really living her best life, huh?" I added, a little too sweetly. Lucas's face went pale. "By the way," I continued, "not done yet. She told everyone you pressured her into it. Said it was all your idea. Even told your mom that." His cigarette dangled from his lips as he froze. "But hey," I added, tucking my phone away, "at least you've got fries." Enter Maurice. Just when I thought the conversation was winding down, life threw in one last surprise. "See, I wasn't the only one who noticed Lucas. Remember Odette? Well, she'd moved on. And guess who she was dating now? Maurice, big guy, used to work security at our office. And Maurice just happened to be inside the restaurant. Everything good out here?" Lucas's face went white when he saw Maurice step out, arms crossed, looking every bit like a dude. "You don't want to mess with." "Yeah, we're good," I said, smirking. "Just catching up." "Lucas?" He crushed his cigarette under his shoe and muttered something about getting back to work. He couldn't get inside fast enough. But Karma? She wasn't done yet. Maddie's meltdown, I thought I'd seen the last of Maddie. But nope. A week after my run-in with Lucas, Maddie showed up at my place. Uninvited. It was raining, and I was about to head out with Rain and her kids when I heard the knock. "Jake, please, can we talk?" She looked rough. Puffy eyes, messy hair, like life had been hitting her with a sledgehammer. "There's nothing to talk about, Maddie," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Please," she begged. "I made a mistake. I was confused. Lucas manipulated me." "Really?" I raised an eyebrow. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you knew exactly what you were doing." Her eyes filled with tears. "Jake, I lost everything." "So did I said, my tone sharper now. "But the difference is, I didn't throw it away." She tried to step closer, but I held up a hand. "I'm happy now, Maddie. I moved on. You should too." And just like that, I shut the door. Rain was right there. As I turned around, Rain was standing in the hallway, watching the whole thing. "You okay?" she asked, her eyes full of concern. "Yeah," I said, taking a deep breath. "I'm good." And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. Lucas's final fall, the cherry on top? 2 days later, a video went viral on TikTok. Someone had filmed Lucas getting chewed out by his manager at the burger joint. Bro thought he was tech royalty. Now he's flipping burgers and getting yelled at by a 19-year-old. The comments? Ruthless. Karma doesn't miss. Couldn't happen to a better guy. Fries with that L. I didn't share it. Didn't need to. But I definitely watched it. More than once. Where am I now? 4 months later? Life's good. Work promoted me leading my own team now. Guess who's on that team? Elsie. She got a well-deserved promotion, and we've been killing it, cleaning up the mess Lucas left behind. Rain and I, we're solid. Her kids adore me, and I've been teaching them how to build forts and play Minecraft. We go hiking on weekends and spend our nights laughing over pizza and bad movies. Lucas and Maddie? Last I heard, Lucas was still flipping burgers, and Maddie was posting cryptic quotes about toxic men and finding herself on Instagram. Final score? Karma. 100 Lucas and Maddie. 0. The last message Lucas. Tried to reach out one last time. You ruined my life, Jake. I didn't even respond. I just sent him a screenshot. His own words from that night. She was never yours to begin with. Guess what, man? I typed. Now she's not yours either. Blocked. Final thought? Never get mad. Get strategic. And always, always keep receipts.